There can be no argument as to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 1974 horror film about a group of teenagers who fall into the clutches of a psychopathic family, being one of the most pervasively disquieting films ever made. Its uniquely rotten, insidious flavor is the result of macabre production design, degraded cinematography, clammy lighting and a sophisticated and abrasive use of sound. Like George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead and Wes Craven's The Last House on the Left, the film used horror to express the discontentment of a country reeling from Vietnam and widespread social unrest. Fans included Ridley Scott, "It shocked the hell out of me," Stanley Kubrick, who bought his own print, and William Friedkin, director of The Exorcist, who said it transcended the horror genre. Its writer-director, Tobe Hooper, who has died aged 74, was already working on a story about young people in peril when he found himself one weekend in the hardware department of a busy store while trying to locate the exit. "I looked down and there was a rack of chainsaws in front of me for sale. I said, if I start the saw, those people would just part. They would get out of my way." So was born a movie, and a character, Leatherface, the chainsaw-wielding brute wearing a mask of human skin, that would become a benchmark in horror and a thorn in the side of film censors everywhere. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. Photograph Alamy 10 local authorities in Britain showed the film with an X rating after the BBFC British Board of Film Censors, as it was known until 1984, refused to issue a certificate in 1975 on the grounds that the picture exemplified the pornography of terror, though when that body finally relented in 1999, it noted that there is no explicit sexual element in the film, and relatively little visible violence. Indeed, Hooper's greatest achievement is to have created an atmosphere of extreme dread and distress chiefly through insinuation. It will be some small compensation for audiences terrified by the film that it was even more hellish to work on than it was to watch. The stench of animal bones and carcasses in the stifling heat caused cast and crew members to throw up. There were accidents and injuries, everyone had got a ding on the head or a cut to this or that, noted Hooper, while the clutch had to be removed from the chainsaw itself after an actor fell while operating it. Hooper engineered divisions among his cast to create tension and refused to let them see Leatherface until their first encounter with him on camera. "That was the heaviest set I've ever been on," the director said. "It was miserable, really." Tobe was born in Austin, Texas, the son of Norman and his wife, Lois Nay Crosby. He claimed his mother went into labor in the cinema. His parents were hotel managers who owned a movie theater in San Angelo. After studying film at the University of Texas, he worked as a documentary cameraman and a college professor. He made his feature debut with Eggshells 1969, a partly improvised psychedelic drama described by Hooper as a mixture of Andy Warhol's Trash and Walt Disney's Fantasia, and directed The Song Is Love 1970, a documentary about the folk trio Peter, Paul, Mary. Hooper then co-wrote The Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Kim Henkel, who had starred in Eggshells. Poltergeist, 1982, directed by Tobe Hooper. Photograph MGM Slakerball Wreck Shutterstock. He remained in the horror genre for Eaten Alive. 1976, about a killer who feeds his victims to his pet alligator, a well-regarded TV adaptation of Stephen King's vampire novel Salem's Lot 1979, starring James Mason and David Soul, and The Funhouse 1981, in which teenagers hiding out at a carnival overnight are preyed on by a killer. He directed Poltergeist 1982, written by Steven Spielberg, but spent many years defending the work as his own, following an LA Times article headlined "Poltergeist, whose film is it?", in which Spielberg was quoted as saying, "Tobe isn't what you'd call a tacky charge sort of guy. He's just not a strong presence on a movie set." Spielberg published an open letter of apology, though this did not lay the matter to rest. Hooper said that Hollywood stopped calling in the wake of the Poltergeist rumors. He turned to the producers Cannon Films to make Life Force 1985 and Invaders from Mars 1986, camp science fiction horror movies from which no one emerged with distinction, as well as The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, also 1986. For this attempt to continue the story with a rowdier and more satirical tone, Hooper hired L.M. Kit Carson, co-writer of Paris, Texas, who advised him that they would need to find the right sort of victims. Once again, it was a shopping trip that provided inspiration. "I saw all these yuppies buying piles of things, 7 sweaters at a time," said Carson. "I called Tobe up and said, I found the victims." The picture was no match for Cannon Films, which was reportedly more brutal in its cutting even than Leatherface himself. From then on he worked mainly in television, directing episodes of Tales from the Crypt and The Equalizer, and a segment of the 1993 portmanteau TV film Body Bags. His final film, Jinn 2013, a horror story set in the United Arab Emirates, attracted scathing reviews. Hooper was married and divorced twice. He is survived by his two sons, William and Tony. William Tobe Hooper, writer and director, born the 25th of January 1943, died the 26th of August 2017.